Welcome to the Blockchain Fundamentals and its Applications, the class offered at Montclair State University at Montclair, New Jersey. My name is Thomas Zakrzewski, and I will discuss today topics on blockchain use cases beyond DeFi, blockchain layer 2 and 3, and implications of current regulatory requirements or lack of thereof on national security. For today's interview, I invited Ethan Gilmore, the entrepreneur and early founder of many startups in the blockchain area. Ethan, welcome again in our series of interviews.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to see you again and to be here with you today.
So far, predominantly, we have seen blockchain use cases in the cryptocurrency space. Are there any other use cases out there that will be able to utilize blockchain effectively?
Yes, I mean, when we talk about topics like this, I mean, this is something we could talk about, I think, for hours. But what we're seeing right now with, and just the idea of distributed consensus, distributed ledger technology, cryptocurrencies being one use case, one of the first use cases that we've seen that has been a very effective proof of concept. It's reached into the trillions of dollars in market capitalization. But obviously, the technology and use case for machine learning, for artificial intelligence, the tokenization also of real world assets. So I saw actually there was a platform 2 or 3 days ago that issued its first bond offering and asset-backed securitization without the use of any banks, which is absolutely incredible when you think about the scale of asset-backed securities, the scale of commercial paper, which has all predominantly been the purview of investment banks and other asset managers. We're seeing that happen now. One of the groups, I think, was out of Switzerland, and the other group was out of India. That is a very interesting use case. The insurance space also, which we've mentioned before, I think is going to, I mean, just from a cost savings perspective, I think if you could just take everything that's going on in insurance right now and digitize it, and then have the chain of title and all of the documents and the exhibits basically put on chain, you could really you could increase the margins of insurance incredibly. And then beyond that, I mean, moving forward in other verticals, we're seeing, I mean, take your pick. Commodities is another area. Also voting. I mean, I know, when we talk about ballots here in the United States, and we're seeing just government in general, the application of distributed ledger technology could really, I mean, we could almost vote immediately in the United States and have a perfect tally. You could be biometrically created, and then that would be the way that we would verify who's voting. You wouldn't have to worry as much about voter fraud. So there's a lot of different applications and use cases in these verticals. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where I mean, also too, we're seeing it in gaming. I think Web3 gaming, a lot of different types of games are going into distributed ledger technology. Entertainment also, to take a film, go out and crowdfund it, to distribute it outside of the studio system, so you don't have to go through Paramount or Warner Brothers, and you can distribute it globally. That's another way. And also money transmitting services. I mean, let's not forget, you can transfer billions of cryptocurrencies almost instantaneously for cents on the dollar. And that's something that you can't really do through the traditional SWIFT system. So it's very expensive to send and receive wires. So, I mean, this is just the top of the surface of I think other verticals that are going to be utilizing blockchain technology in the future.
Right now, that's a great answer. So you already mentioned about the many use cases, and you kind of commingle as well the technology sectors. So why don't we just focus a little bit more on the technology sectors, which has been basically predominantly the gaming and the gambling, right? Predominantly has been in Las Vegas and the Nevada state of the Nevada, but now due to opening state legislation. That you can basically bet on a sports game and any other different events, not just a sports game, right? That opens a lot of opportunity for the companies to get in, of course, right? But what about the technology? Do you really see the blockchain, as a technology that could actually make the difference in that space, and why?
I mean, we're well aware of the main problem right now facing blockchain technology is still speed and scaling. In addition to security, we've seen a lot of hacks, especially through 2022, and then the regulatory environment. So we still have the issue of scaling, which is blockchain does have a problem scaling, which is why we're seeing more and more layer twos, and we're even seeing the emergence of layer threes. So, but yeah, I mean, from a standpoint of gaming, as well as, I mean, for the refi space, the regenerative finance space, the ESG, environment, social governance, the combination of utilizing blockchain technologies in those verticals, as as well as gaming and entertainment, I see all those technologies utilizing blockchain technology in some way. Now, does that mean, Thomas, that we're talking about a token? Does that mean we're talking about total decentralization? I don't necessarily know if decentralization always makes sense in those instances. It could be a permission network. I think if you're talking about gambling specifically, you're going to have to do KYC and AML, so you know who is gambling, to make sure that they're the right age, they're not in a country where that type of activity is illegal. That could very well mean there's no token, and it could be a permission network. So those are all these subtle nuances, though, of we're talking about scale, we're talking about a variety of different verticals, and then we're also talking about, well, if it's a distributed ledger technology, does that mean it's a permission network, or is it completely decentralized? And in the blockchain space, decentralization, I mean, we've never really had it. There's always been some element of centralization, whether it was on the mining side, or whether it was on the wallet side, or whether it was on the exchange side, right? So, I see these technologies utilizing different applications of distributed ledger technology that could include a token, no token, and permission networks. But again, we're going to have to scale a lot better than what we've been doing if we're going to go after, massively scalable verticals like money transmitting, which is also part of the gambling space, right? Also, if you want to build in economics in the gaming world to give gamers the opportunity to earn in-game rewards, that's all going to have to scale better. And obviously, that API is going to have to plug in and be secure within some of these gaming engines, whether it's Unreal or something like that. And that's going to present its own challenges.
I guess you're right. I have heard the stories about from renowned actually people in the blockchain about the cost of the transaction and as well as the scalability of the transactions. So on a cost of the transaction rate, even from the NFT standpoint of view, if you would like to, let's say, serialize every drug that is produced in an entire world, right? The cost right now is about 25 cents, which is, very, very high, comparing to, let's say, the single vaccine for the hepatitis B is about the $2.50, $3. So you can't really pay, a big portion of that for the registration on an NFT of the serial number for this drug, right? So certainly I can see the issues that has to be resolved, and I have heard that those would be resolved in a due time, but we expecting those goes beyond the 2025 and more towards 2030. Okay, so that's kind of where we stand today, and that resonates what you already have explained to us. So let's switch a little bit to the layer two, right? Because that's kind of it is that we have seen not very recently, right? But since the sushi swap was there, and and any other protocols that enables you actually to cross over the different protocols, right? That essentially where the DeFi started. So we have seen that increase, and I'm wondering, what is your opinion? Why? Okay, why specifically we have seen that increase of activity in a layer two?
That's a great question, and I mean, just to get it out of the way, I've said it earlier, but this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting anybody. This is not legal advice. I would say, though, the reason why we've seen layer twos, why they're becoming so popular, is they're very useful, right? I mean, they help people scale and they help people save money. I mean, if you can help users scale, and you can increase the speed, and you can also help them save money on gas fees, what's wrong with that? That's a great use case. I think we're going to see a lot more adoption on a global level. I don't know, again, what that means in the United States. I think the US is not going to let DeFi do or develop. I mean, they still haven't really, again, like we've spoken about it, we haven't seen any clarification regarding a security token versus a utility token. I think they're still very focused on layer ones. So for them to get in and look at layer twos, but layer twos are really useful. I mean, what a great use case also for the end user to help scale and also help users save money. And I think, you know, when you have slow transaction speed, you have high gas fees. And Ethereum, in many instances, is a victim of its own success. The reason why gas fees are so expensive on Ethereum is because Ethereum is so useful, right? And it's so popular. And when we're seeing the development and emergence now of Arbitrum and Optimism, and then we're also seeing basically DeFi based decentralized order books, decentralized exchanges like DYDX and others. That's the next iteration of where we're going in crypto, and they're incredibly useful because they're faster, in many instances they're better, and it's a great user experience, and there's demand for that on a global level. So hopefully we'll see some clarification in the United States that will allow DeFi to develop. But it's just when you build something that's useful, what's the old saying? The world will be the path to your door. We're seeing that with layer twos now with DeFi. We're seeing layer twos also like Arbitrum. They're releasing layer threes now. So I mean, I can't wait to see where it goes. The use case though is fantastic, and people are going to go where they can save money and transact more quickly. And that type of technology sells itself.
So I can see already you could answer for my question that I was just about to ask. What is the trend? Whether that will grow? Apparently, it will. So why don't we just talk about the layer three, because that certainly is the new thing, right? What is the layer three? Can you explain to us?
So I mean, the layer three, and I literally just found out about it about a week ago. But I know you can develop native tokens and native smart contracts you can bridge over on Ethereum onto like an Arbitrum. And then you can even go into greater specificity, and I think also scale more quickly into the layer three networks. I think also you're going to be able to take certain applications, and we're seeing smart contracts that were built on Ethereum, and now they're going to bridge over to Arbitrum, then they're going to bridge over to Polygon, and then I could even see the proliferation of other more specific smart contracts, decentralized exchanges also go on to layer twos and also go into layer threes where they can just transact more quickly. We're also seeing more institutional adoption. We're starting to also see institutional DeFi. We're seeing actual, in Europe in some places, institutional and compliant staking. So all of those things are transacting together. And I don't know if they're all going to be built into the layer three cake mix. But again, I can't wait to learn more. I haven't used the layer three. I don't know if many people have, but I think we're going to see all different types of use cases there. And if it leads to more cost savings and greater speed, fantastic. I think the whole distributed ledger space and the whole tech space at large is going to be better off because of it.
So you mentioned about something about the centralized exchanges, and in a light of this three pillars, which is the institutional adoption, increase of speed, right, for transaction, and of course scalability, addressing the scalability, and decrease the cost of the transaction. Should centralized exchanges be worried?
Yes, and I think they absolutely should be worried. And in many instances, some of the best centralized exchanges are supporting layer twos. So I believe Crypto.com already supports Arbitrum. I think a few other major exchanges do. And that's actually a really nice combination, because if you have compliant centralized exchanges that have a strong user base and they've already identified KYC, and they can take that KYC in compliant pool and get them onto a layer two, that's a great combination, because I think that's going to just increase more interaction with a layer two. That's going to ring less alarm bells potentially with government regulators, because if you can combine KYC on a layer 2, and you can also have a centralized exchange that may also, in some instances, and again, I don't know if this is the case, again, no investment advice, no legal advice. Some exchanges also may have some insurance if you have KYC as well, combining with a layer 2 and maybe eventually layer 3s. That's going to be a very worthwhile and useful user experience, I think, for a lot of crypto users. And I think that's also going to really help the space. And it'll help, users also save money. I mean, this is, again, like, people are going to want to save money, and if they can save money and they can also increase scalability, and they don't have to worry about regulatory issues, that is a great combination.
On our previous interview, we discussed the regulations and how regulations impact and drives out the innovation, and obviously the innovation impacts the national security threat. Is blockchain technology a national security threat, or is an opportunity for the U.S. Senate, Congress to instill some modifications to the current regulations, so the innovations will be permitted? The blockchain will be permitted, perhaps under the regulator, specific regulatory requirements. So that's the question I would like to ask you, and your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great question. It genesis back to I think what a lot of people are talking about is how can we ensure, as Americans that want to see America do well in this new century that we're in, how can we ensure that this technology doesn't develop offshore, where we don't have all this innovation pushed offshore, where we don't have billions and in some cases trillions of dollars as this develops pushed offshore. And if the US government can create regulation that allows distributed ledger technology to develop here, it's going to be a national security asset. It's going to be good for the national security of the United States. It's going to be good for the US dollar. The more stable coins that can be priced in US dollars, the better it's going to be. Again, getting back to the sort of crypto Bretton Woods concept. The other thing that we want to make sure, you can't stop blockchain technology. The whatever saying you want to use, the toothpaste is out of the tube, the genie is out of the bottle. It's not going away. It's going to accelerate. It's going to accelerate even faster with quantum computing and also artificial intelligence and machine learning. All of this needs to develop here because the rest of the world is going to take all this technology and run with it. And the dominance of the next 100 years and the balance of international power, I think, is going to be greatly affected by these technologies, in particular blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, and also quantum computing. I mean, that could be, and what many people are saying, it's our next industrial revolution. And the United States needs to be a part of that. A problem that we've been seeing, and again, I say this with all due respect, I'm a concerned American citizen. It feels like the U.S. government's trying to keep the status quo, and the status quo is gone. There's no way you can go back to the 1970s. You just can't. I mean, we are moving in this direction, whether they want us to or not. And the more Bitcoin, the more of the hash rate for the Bitcoin blockchain that's here in the United States is going to be good also for national security. And if anything, we should create a sandbox that brings all of the great minds in the world of any background, of any passport here to the States to set up businesses here. And let's bring their families and let's let them set up shop. I think we should also even go a step further and give them some government funding, put them in a think tank, so this all develops here, because the GDP of some other nation states are actually now completely entwined with, I mean, part of their gross national product is blockchain development, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. And when you have government spending, and if you think about some nations' defense budget is actually going into artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain technology. And what do we have here? We have the Howey test pushing everybody off. And even, organizations like Coinbase who are working with government regulators are getting hit with lawsuits. It's completely antithetical. And I think our stance to date regarding blockchain technology in particular is a national security risk. We have to do a complete, do a complete reversal here. And I don't know how we do that. It may take us 10 years to lobby, and in 10 years, who knows what the state of the art of blockchain is going to look like. So yeah, I mean, I think if we were to be pro blockchain, it would be a national security asset. Being anti blockchain like we are now, though, is a national security threat.
Indeed, the world is changing, and so security threats are changing. There used to be a physical threat, then it was the cyber threat, financial threat. Yeah, so the technological threat as well, right? Because intelligence, if we're going to drive intelligence out of the United States, that intelligence is going to set and develop the other countries for sure. So we may actually just lose the competitive advantage in that space. Ethan, I would like to thank you again for your time spent with us. So we learned a lot about the blockchain complementing technologies. We also hear your opinion on the national security implications related to blockchain technologies. Great content. Thank you again, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.